Well, here I am at our Florida home, and we had a room in our two-bedroom side that I used for an office. However, the sofa couch that we had in there was inadequate, to say the least. So I decided to build something, and I got this. I didn't have a table saw, so I got this item from Harbor Freight and put together a straight edge to help me make some panels to make a Murphy bed. So what you're going to see here today is what I did to make a Murphy bed. Now, I didn't really like any of the plans or things that I saw, so I hunted all over the internet. I hunted Pinterest, I hunted all sorts of advertisements to try to find some. So I began to make my own pieces, made my dimensions, and it was really somewhat of a challenge to get exactly what I needed. I wanted to make a queen size Murphy bed that I could also use as a office when I was not using it as a bed, because not often would I really use it as a bed. Here you see me making my slats. I've made the slats here, and I began to glue them because that would be part of the frame for where I put the mattress. On the bottom, or the front side, would be 3/4 inch plywood, and on the other side would be 1/2 inch plywood. So I ended up actually using 7/16 OSB. So I'm making these little L channels that actually would help support that and give strength from side to side of our bed. This is one of the tools I really love. It makes pocket holes. And here I am putting pocket holes into the side pieces of the bed frame. So the mattress would be on either side, or on the insides of this. And make the pocket holes with screws. It's just a great way of assembling many different kinds of things. Once I got my main pieces put together and I got my rails with pocket holes in them, then after that I was able to lay them out to see how they were all going to fit together. So I laid them out in my garage. After the side pieces, you can see I put a curve on the bottom so that when it rotates up, that one corner would not hit the top of my Murphy bed. And I laid them out in order to screw them together and begin to see exactly where I was at. Once I had the main frame put together, it was time to begin to cut my pieces for the front. And so I used my handy dandy little Craig's jig in order to put pocket holes. I also needed to make the tops, the bottoms, and begin to put that together. I had Home Depot cut some of these pieces before I got them. And look at this 4 foot here, and look at that cut. Went from 80. It's off a ½ an inch. That was a vertical cut that they did, so their saw wasn't so good. After figuring out what I was going to do to straighten out the Home Depot mess up, I laid the frame on top of the wood, putting the worst side up, which was going to be the inside of my sanded plywood, and I marked where my cross members were, and I put construction adhesive on there. So the idea was to make sure that one of those cross members were where my hinge for my desk unit was going to be, and where my top shelf was going to be. Somehow I goofed it up, and it didn't work out quite right the way I wanted, but in the end we made it work anyway. So I carefully laid the frame and the edges of the bed on my plywood, and I needed it to extend off the sides a little bit because of when it closed. So I believe I had about a 3/4 inch reveal on the sides. Make sure it was all lined up, and then I used the pocket screws to screw that down so that I did not have screws going through the top. After I had it all done, I went and I rubbed some plastic wood on the edge grain. I thought about banding it, but because I'm painting it, I just ended up using this plastic wood putty, and I rubbed it in, and it actually turned out quite well rather than doing an edge banding. And I also saved myself a little money in doing that as well. And sanding and sanding and sanding and sanding with various grits of paper. Here I am, sitting on what was to be a beautiful Murphy bed desk project, continuous level desk for my Murphy bed project. However, last night I got to thinking, oh, I built it wrong on how it hinged and that type of thing. So I got to tear that apart. And then today I was working on this bed, and to make sure that I was up at the top and exactly where do I put these hinges. And so I worked here, got these so it's level there, so the face is correct. And then I wanted 4 inches from the bottom to there. So I have that. So now I'm able to rotate it, or will be able to rotate it and work on that. So these hinges come with almost 0 instructions. I was really worried last night. I was like, oh no, I made this 14 inches wide. Is that enough? It turns out it is barely enough. If things are tight, it works, okay? So that's where we are on that. And so the project can continue to go ahead. I got to tear that apart and make it a little bit differently, because the way it is now, it won't hinge correctly. So yeah, one step at a time and without plans. Actually, I plan to put together some drawings. So if anybody wants to buy these hinges and wants something better than the plans that they come with, well, that should help them. So, okay, that's about what's going on here. Everybody have a great day,
and I'll keep you updated.
So this was a little bit the scary part. First I had to put some holes into the sides and prepare to actually mount the spring hinge units that I had purchased. Again, these were from some USA place, and you can buy them. And they come with all these springs. Now, these springs were really strong, and so I took some of them off, as it seemed like some people did. And that was ended up being pretty much a waste of time, because till I got the bed and everything put together, it I needed most all of those. I needed all of those springs, but I figured out how to take them apart, and so you see here my useless activity of taking this spring apart, but it was all a good learning process. So I took the springs apart and continued to assemble them and put them onto the bed. Once I mounted them, I had to take my little grinder with a cutoff wheel, and I had to cut off the screws because they were a little long, and when I bolted them in, they would have hit the side of the frame of that. So then there you can see the part, the headboard is the wide part there. You can see the part that gets fastened to the wall. And I was getting ready to do a mock-up. So I had some shelves there. You can see some vertical 2x4s, and I just said, well, I could screw that into place so it doesn't fall over. And I wasn't ready anyway, but I was ready to test something out, and so I got ready. I was ready to set it up, and so check the level and make sure we were plumb, because obviously I was going to make it plumb and square on the wall. And I was a little wondering just exactly how I was going to do it. Now, there's already screwed on the brackets that hold the spring hinges, and so I needed to make sure that everything was copacetic. So I screwed the top, screwed the bottom, and I decided, now how is this really going to work out? So I set some blocks up that were approximately the height that this needed to be, because it had to be up off of the ground a little bit. And I worked it around. Again, I'm working by myself here. Lifted it up, And with it on the blocks, I was able to work to line that up so that I could see are my hinges going to work or not. This is a little bit where I made another mistake, not getting it on, but once I got it on, I figured the weight of the bed was about what it was going to be, and I didn't really calculate that well enough. So with some springs off my hinges, I tried it.
That's somewhat how it's going to look. Boy, the springs are about right.
I'm pretty happy with that. I'll have a stop up there.
Now some legs did come with that kit, but I wanted to make a top shelf because it was going to be an office area most of the time. So I made a little shelf for the top, and I made it, I believe it was 10 inches wide. And I decided to put that on, and then that's when I realized, oh, that's not really where I wanted it to be. And in the end, it didn't matter too much, but I was a little disappointed in my own self and my own calculations. But I made my measurements and wanted to pre-drill some holes so that when I did assemble it, I was all set. So my slats didn't work out exactly where I wanted them to be, but it ended up not being an issue at all. Then it came time for paint. I put 2 coats of primer on and 2 coats of a semi-gloss on, and I really don't like painting, but I did do it. I also had to rebuild the desk part and get that painted, and there was a lot of painting between 4 coats on everything. I also put everything on, and you can see how it was. I had to put a handle on the shelf so that I had something to pull down on, and used my Forstner bit and put drawer slides on, had the desk unit and a keyboard shelf as well. So you can see I put it on, and then I took them off to move it in, built some drawers, and I was getting tired of videoing, but here's where I put a light switch for some lights that I wanted to put on, so I got them wired up, and I'll put a switch where I could turn them on and off when it was open and when it was closed. So that worked out pretty well. Then I had to cut the baseboard, get ready to put things in, and so I put it on my cart and I rolled it in. I set it up into place, and there we go. It's move-in time. I got it up, got it fastened. That all worked really pretty well. when I put it down, I put the OSB in and testing how it's going to look out, and finally drilled holes for airflow underneath the mattress because I read that that was important. So that's how it was before and after the mattress, and I think it all turned out pretty well. I'm quite happy. I use it a lot now for a workstation, and I also kept the little couch. So thanks for watching, and hope you enjoyed this.